Welcome, everybody, to episode 3. We finally settled in post-Olympics. You know, the dust has settled for the Olympics. I think we have settled in. We're not jet lagged. You got your voice back.
I got my voice back, you guys.
Big news.
Yeah.
The WNBA has started up again, definitely hit the ground running. And then, of course, in case anyone forgot, I don't know how you could, we've got an election coming up in November.
Yes, we do. We are also back with a new Are You a Sue or Are You a Megan? Can't wait for everybody to weigh in on that. I can't wait to weigh in on that, personally. Okay, right to the check-in. Let's get into it because we have a lot to talk about. The WNBA is back, and if that seems way too soon, it is. Some players flew right to their games
the Olympians,
from France, hit back-to-backs. It resumed on the 15th of August, which was 4 days. It's just like, I couldn't get off the couch. I don't know how they're playing. Trade deadline is tomorrow, August 20th. We're recording on the 19th. So I want to hear your thoughts on if you think there's going to be moves. But Sue, take it away. WNBA is back.
No, I doubt there'll be moves.
Come
the
on.
WNBA is it's just not set up for that.
I know,
I'm sure
you've
a lot
talked
of
about
people know it by now, but we have hard salary caps, and it's literally just a puzzle, a financial puzzle that doesn't always fit. So to make a trade, money has to match, but you also have to stay within 11 to 12 player rosters. It's just not always easy. You can't just trade some picks and get a player and make it work. No, you're probably already going to be over your cap at that point. So I don't anticipate any moves.
Summer.
Sorry, I know it makes it exciting, but listen, there's new CBA coming up in a couple years, and things are going to probably change.
We're not going to get into that, but
that'll be fun because I do think trade deadline rumors and whatnot. But listen, there's 24 more hours. There's 24 more hours. But yeah, the WNBA did hit the ground running. You mentioned Olympians. What I think is most interesting is outside of the fatigue from travel and the fatigue from pressure, which is real, I feel like the USA Olympians are probably just in great shape at this point.
Yeah,
right?
true.
They weren't playing their normal minutes. Again, the pressure, all of that has a different kind of fatigue and the lack of sleep and having to, I know for Jewel Lloyd, she had to go, or even Diana actually had to go straight from Paris to meet her team in Chicago and then had a back-to-back. That's mentally tough. But I bet in the next couple weeks, the US Olympians will look great. I actually, not worry, but I'm curious how Olympians from other countries will look, right? Like, obviously for the Storm, they have Ezzy, they've got Sammy. These are players that had to play big minutes, and that goes across the board for other Olympians. So I'm keeping my eye on that. But just a quick rundown. Liberty played the Aces the other day, won pretty handedly, which, they're kind of, Liberty's on their way, whereas the Aces have had some struggles. I think for the Aces, the way I look at it, you could always count on them outscoring their opponent, right? They just had firepower in that way, and they still do. Something's just a little off, right? Whether it's Chelsea was out for a while, obviously she's still coming back from her injury. They're just, Asia's playing amazing, but otherwise they're just a little off offensively. And then their defense was always where you would want to attack them. You'd want to try to make sure they guarded you. It's just teams didn't always have the firepower to match it.
It's hard to win and do all the stuff that comes with winning and still continue to be great and get better. And then, there's Target on your back.
That's always
especially if you're playing the Liberty,
especially if you're trying to three-peat.
Yeah.
So that was a good game to come back to. The Liberty actually clinched the playoffs pretty early. I know
the Liberty.
They're on a tear.
Yeah, it's like nobody's really talking about them. Talking about the Aces, obviously, maybe not nobody, but talking about the Aces.
And I'm like, what?
Three-peating and like what this team's doing, and then they're just casually cruising to like an incredible record. All these players are playing amazing, already clinched. So
yeah,
they're on a mission.
Stewie was recently talked about as aging out. So I wonder if there's a little fire in her belly. I think Sabrina's play has been really impressive. I think the thing that impresses me the most is just the consistency and what she was already good at, but the simultaneous adding of this little floater she has, and she's getting more confident as the season goes. I saw it in legit game 1, and I was like, ooh, someone added a floater. And to see her confidence kind of rise the more she's doing it.
You know how much I love that floater.
Yeah, floater's fun to watch. Caitlin had a little floater last night.
I know.
Uh-oh.
Somebody used their Olympic break.
Scary hours.
Yeah, Stewie aging out. That's just... Can we just stop saying
30s old.
30s old.
Yeah, we're going to get into this later too.
Okay, fine. Because it honestly just pisses me TF off. It's so, I mean, you answered questions about it for 11 years. I answered questions about it for 8.5 years. It's so annoying.
8.5.
8.5 years.
Mine was 11 3/4. I just want to make sure.
Hey, listen, you got to get it where you can.
Where'd the half come from?
It's so frustrating and so disrespectful. And also, I'm just like, Stewie's aging in, whatever that means.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So the Aces, as we said, played the Liberty. They also played the Sparks, and there was some booing. And
in Las Vegas.
Yeah, they played in Las Vegas, which means Dearica Hamby, a member of the Los Angeles Sparks, who obviously has been ongoing legal battle with the Aces, but most recently has filed against both the Aces and the WNBA. I don't know the terminology. Give it a look. But to hear the fans boo, and I could hear it. I was watching. I could hear it on TV. And then I got, into my Twitter. And the For You page is tough. You don't know what to believe. Yeah. FYI, everybody, on your For You page,
a lot of BS in
double and triple check that shit.
A lot of bots.
Because there's some times where I'm like, oh my God. And then I go Google it and you can't find whatever fact that was written at all. No, so definitely double and triple check your For You page. But people said on the tweets that she even got booed during introductions, which is tough. And that I just think, I think that's awful.
I did hear it last night. We were watching the game. And I said, there ain't no way they are booing this woman right now. This is sometimes, honestly, we're sports fans. I'm like, you guys need to take a step back and just understand
these are people,
what you're booing. Like she's not just a player for the Sparks who used to play for your team, and now there's this thing. Like, she's a mother. She's an athlete. She was discriminated against, or feels that she was. She's filed a federal lawsuit against. This is not just we're going out here and playing, and she's on the opposite team. I don't know. I guess this is falling into the believe women category.
No, I think there's just a line when it comes to fandom, and I think. Listen,
I couldn't believe that.
I was like, if I was an opposing player going, to play against the team that I had left or that I'd been traded from, and you get booed without the legal stuff happening, it's not great. But I'm like, yeah, okay, they're booing you. Okay, it is what it is.
Oh yeah, that's
when
fine.
It's just sports. Yeah, when it's just play, when you're just booing a player because
I like a boo sometimes.
Yeah, it's part of the game. I'm not saying that. This to me crossed whatever line exists. It crossed because now we're talking about everything that you just touched on, which is there's something that is currently happening. One thing I've learned with all legal matters is you have to let them play out. I don't think you can. You have to let it play out. And so the booing just felt icky. It just felt icky.
Yeah, it wasn't cool.
Yeah.
Not cool.
But yeah, there was another game on yesterday, which was the Storm versus the Fever. God, there's so much to say in all of this little WNBA recap. My list goes on forever. I think where I'll start here, because we'll get to the Fever a little bit later. Where I'll start here with the Storm is, they were on pace prior to the game starting back up to be, I think, one of the most improved WNBA teams of all time, meaning from last season to this season, so previous to current. All the numbers were through the roof. Sadly, they've dropped their first two. They're now sitting, if I'm correct, in 5th place. The Aces are in 4th place. That's not it's not really what you want to see in the first round, but Tough. It is what it is.
Tough.
But actually, the thing I want to talk about most is Skylar Diggins-Smith. I think she is someone that when I saw her earlier in the season, I was like, hey, how you feeling? How's it going? She said something that resonated. She was like, oh, I'm just on my 3rd body, so I'm just trying to figure that out. And I was like,
incredible.
Wow, I never thought of it that way, right? She had her first body, then what she's referencing is 2nd body is after her first child, 3rd body is after her 2nd. And what a navigation. And I think this Olympic break, from what I've seen from her, even though they've lost in these 2 games, this Olympic break was great for her. We've talked about the Olympians and how it's going to affect them. Of course, the players that stayed home, it gives them more time, whether it's in practice, work on themselves, get some rest. And I think for Skylar, after not being in the league for, a couple years. It was one full season, but that's really in real time a couple years. I think this break was really helpful for her to just kind of settle down and just get herself back, get her game back, get her aggressiveness back. Sometimes the games come so quick, you don't have time to breathe, but this allowed her a chance to breathe. I thought she looked great. And
I love to see that.
she's getting more comfortable. LaChina Robinson has a series, Off Day. I know she just did one with Skylar, so that comes out on Wednesday. Check that out.
Check that out. We saw a lot of LaChina at the Olympics. She was looking amazing in her polo. I loved her polos. I loved them so much.
I'm a big fan of uniform dressing for broadcasters, for coaches. I think it hits.
Huge fan of the Olympic
It's got to be
polos.
easier for them to pack too.
Yeah. Just pack 5 polos.
Yeah.
You're good.
So mentioning that game, there was some spiciness at the end.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, I think initially people thought it was because of substitutions. Then there was some video circulating. It seems like Caitlin, in her getting the crowd hype, stumbled, maybe got nudged a bit there by Skylar, stumbled into the storm, like huddle bench area, and just kept it moving.
Caitlin's always in the mix.
Things got a little spicy.
I like it.
Oh,
I like it.
None of this is surprising to me.
No.
If I'm Caitlin, I'm like, yeah, whatever. You're bad. I'm on my way to my bench,
Yeah.
And if I'm the Storm, I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I liked it.
Assertive with that.
I was like, what is
so like
going
both
on?
sides. I think that's just the chippiness, the spiciness you like to see in sports.
It's great.
It's in my mind all benign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indiana seems to have used their break really well.
Yeah.
Got a little rest. They seem to be playing well together. You had it somewhere about them playing so fast or something, but they seem to just be hitting the ground running, if you will.
Quick things just to add before we get to that part of it. Angel Reese had 19 and 20 rebounds. She's now the fastest
these
player.
Old Kevin Love numbers. Let's go.
What a reference. What a reference.
Come on.
You pulled that out of the archives.
Come on, y'all.
What a reference.
Chin strap Kevin. Giving you 19 and 20. Love you, Kev.
Fastest player to 20 double-doubles in a season.
Balling.
I think things to keep an eye out on are teams that had a lot of injuries in the first part of the season. Atlanta has Jordan Canada and Ryan Howard back. Tina Charles is getting more comfortable. They've got 2 wins out of break. Keep your eye on them. Dallas, I believe they've only played 1 game. They lost, but they've got Satu back, Natasha Howard back, Maddie
Satu
Secret's
didn't
back.
play at all, right?
No.
Prior to the Olympic break?
Yeah, she was getting ready for the Olympics with that shoulder injury. And then even though this isn't an injury, Marina Mabry was involved in a trade prior to the Olympic break, which I thought was great. If you're going to do a trade this season, you do it before the Olympic break because now you have a month, give or take, to get that person acclimated. And I think Mabry joining Connecticut is something to keep your eye on. She's going to take off that scoring load a little bit off DB. I think she fits their team, but TBD, they got to gel. So
I'm
we'll
into it. I love me some Marina.
And now we're just going to go to my quick little segment of which teams would I not want to see in the playoffs. And that's where you brought up the fever. I think what I've learned in my WNBA experience is pace of play trumps physicality. It trumps size. It can trump experience because a lot of times when you're experienced, it's really like code word for your veteran, which is code word for your old.
Slow the pace.
Yeah. So I feel like
I know that's why you guys were so good for those
in
years.
2018 and 2020, the years we won, that was our whole mantra was pace, 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 pace. And what I see in Caitlin, what I see in Kelsey Mitchell, they're just like ramming it down people's throats. And it's really hard. It can have your head spinning. So yeah, as I mentioned, Kelsey Mitchell's balling, Caitlin continuing to impress and she's going to break records nonstop for the next couple of years. Yeah. It's just going to be a constant record break.
Yeah,
the only thing I find most interesting is at the start of the season, everybody had their panties in a twist over Caitlin getting picked up full court and Caitlin being denied. And I think what I'm not surprised by is naturally during a WNBA season, teams and players, you start to get a little tired. You're kind of in like the doldrums of the every day or every other day is a game. And it's hard to keep that discipline to guard a player like that. So I'm not surprised it dropped off. But what do you know? She's no longer getting picked up full court in the ways that we like teased Ari McDonald for when she did it after a free throw when she still had another free throw. But what you're seeing is Caitlin now is able to push the ball up the floor. She's able to hit those get-ahead passes.
Yeah.
And so I won't be surprised if as the season gets later into like playoff runs, if you start to see teams do more, and you're definitely going to see it in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But everybody, that's why you had to pick Caitlin up full court.
Yeah.
This is why.
This is why.
The number she's putting up now, like, this
Y'all
is
stopped
why.
and now she broke the record.
Yeah, everyone was like
First
mad
season
about it. I was like,
rookie.
I don't get it. That would be like, I don't even know what it would be like. It'd be like letting Kevin Durant shoot pull-ups all day. It's like, no.
Can't do it, y'all.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah. She's
I don't
also
know why I
like
picked that
figuring
example,
it
but-
out and settling in.
She's definitely figuring it out.
Got a little rest.
Oh,
got a
another
little
thing, by
break.
the way,
That was
I
nice.
never thought Caitlyn wasn't strong. That was actually something I noticed in college. Like, she had a strength about her. Will she get stronger and will that help her? Yeah. I think it was more just getting used to the hits and the physicality and like what refs are going to call, what they're not going to call. And you've seen her adjust in that way too. Like, she got blocked pretty bad by Ezzy, took a little bit of a splat. And like, yeah, I'm sure she was a little pissed, but she kind of got up, took the lick and got back.
Yeah.
You know, whereas earlier in the season, I think it would have impacted her a little bit more. So
Just get used to
she's
it.
definitely getting used to it, which is, you know, trouble for everybody else. That's why I don't want to see her. I don't want to see Phoenix. Kalia Copper is ballin'.
I don't want to see Kalia Copper.
They've
anywhere
added
near.
Monique Billings. Not trying to see that. And then with DNBG, you just have players that, yes, the WNBA playoffs is a series, but in the one game, those two, you just never know. You never know. And when you have players like that, it can
Tosh
be scary.
too. Tosh God playing well.
Yeah. So yeah, the other question is who will be peaking. Don't want to see those teams. And then of course, last but not least, Gabby Williams. The Seattle Storm waived Kiana Williams last night. I don't know what it means.
Merci.
I don't know what it means, but I saw
Kiana
it.
Seattle. Is that how you say it?
Circling back on the trade deadline, you got to make space. Kiana's 7-day was ending, but
No, we got to get Gabby back.
we'll see.
Gabby had such an
Aw,
amazing life.
Very cute.
Yeah, we got to get, I love Gabby so much. I'm a Storm. Storm for life.
Boom. There's your rundown, folks.
Okay. Well, there's a lot happening.
I know. We brought up Angel Reese earlier. She's actually, she just debuted a new anti-cyberbullying ad.
I loved it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, okay, first of all, my thoughts on social media are that there's so many bots happening. Like, I think players really need to like onboard that. I know that when you go in the comments, it's gross in there. And especially for women, especially, I was going to try to explain that it's like every kind of woman, no matter what kind of woman you are, how you present, or what you look like, you're going to get hate for something. So I would really encourage everybody out there to, try to like either stay out of the comments or at least take it with a grain of salt.
But that's what makes
On the flip side,
what she's doing so amazing. This
Yeah.
is, yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, on the flip side, I would just feel like for real people who are on the internet and commenting on things, like just take a beat and realize that you're talking to real people who have real feelings and emotions. Like, you don't have to be so hateful. This is a sport, like relax a little bit.
So part of what Angel Reese is getting into is, I don't know if it's a program or what, but it'll be AI helping block
Amazing.
all of that hate speech.
Amazing. Because nobody needs to see that.
Yeah, I love this. Where I always go with this is I feel like kids of, let's say, anywhere from like 3 to 11, when kids who are 3 to 11 are in their 20s, they're going to be looking at us and view social media usage the same way we look at older generations and say, oh my God, you smoked every day?
Smoked in the car.
You smoked in the car. You could
smoked
smoke
in
on
the
the airplane? That's how I think, like a 5-year-old, when they're 25, they're going to be like, oh my God, Aunt Megan, you could just sign onto your Twitter and look at comments?
Yeah.
You were allowed to use curse words in your tweets? It's going to be something like that.
Yeah,
That's
true.
that's like where this is going.
Yeah.
So things are going,
Things have
I
gotta
think, are
change.
going to change.
Things
and this
have really
is
has
this is a
to
step in that
change.
direction because it is bad for, as you're saying, women's athletes.
I think it's great also for women to be speaking out on this and actually saying what is happening in their comments. Because I think some people are like, oh, okay, yeah, you get hate. Like, it's sort of a, this kind of like opaque thing. And it's like, no, they're saying awful things in there about you personally. And that's just unacceptable. Like, we're playing sports. This is just a game and we need to be kinder to each other. So I love Angel for this. This is really cool, using her really big platform to
combated.
Yeah,
She's dealt with so much of it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, the racism, the sexism, the homophobia, all of it in there for female athletes is crazy. So this is really cool from Angel. Shout out, Angel. What's next? Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
This was such a huge moment for me. I have never met Colin in person. Obviously, we've talked, we text, we know each other, of course, and have had a lot of contact and had a lot of camaraderie over the years. And I feel like it's pretty clear how I feel about Colin and what Colin did, and with kneeling and how brave it was. And we actually got to meet Colin. We actually met him at the basketball game. Him and his partner Nessa, who's also amazing, were sitting behind us, and I think he yelled or something. I kind of heard it first time, but not really. There was a lot of fans and stuff. And then he yelled again. I turn around and there he is. So we got to chat with him and Nessa for a while. And then we ended up seeing him one other time and actually got to sit down and
talk,
and chat. And it was just really amazing to share such a private moment. I know for me, I don't know how he feels, but I think so much of it has just been public and been sort of part of this movement. So to actually be able to talk about the things that he went through, talk about the things that I went through, stuff with our family and, our moms being, becoming radicalized in certain ways, through our actions, and just how it's been was really, really amazing.
Well, I'd imagine for both of you since 2016, it's been 8 years, but I'd imagine for both of you, the way that people interact with you in the world or what you might see on social media, there can be times where you feel alone or lonely, even though you have a ton of support, to actually be that person. So I think it's so special. You guys have had some connecting points and some connections throughout the years, but I as I was watching you two just kind of groove out, I think in that moment, I would imagine you just feel less lonely and there's somebody that went through the exact same thing. Because again, yeah. I'll use us as an example. You play soccer, I play basketball. There are times where we understand things so intimately, but it's a little different when I talk to Diana about basketball. It's just a little different. So for you to actually get to spend time with Colin, I could see it for both of you, just how special that was.
Yeah, and there's just so few athletes that really did that at that time, sort of right after. Yeah, I think for me to just be able to share that space with him and, even just thank him in person, be able to share that was really cool. So that was a big highlight.
Something else we shared, or he shared.
Oh, yeah.
Is that he's interested.
He's interested in LA 2020.
LA 2028 flag.
He shared that as
football. So now let's get into, the ways in which he's been in the news a little bit, which is really stemming off of Jim Harbaugh not offering him. I actually went back and read the articles. He mentioned that he spoke to Colin about a coaching position, about being involved with the Chargers in a non-playing way. He sees something in Colin, and then that kind of got stirred up a little bit as if there was a job offer.
Yeah.
And so Coach Harbaugh had to come back out and say okay, no, there's actually not a job offer. It's something we talked about. My staff is set for this year, but shrug, maybe in the future.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting to see him back in the NFL, albeit in a different capacity. I don't know if that's something he wants. But I was when he talked about flag football, I was like, oh, I'm here for this.
Yeah. Oh, he would be so good in flag football. He would be so good in the NFL. Let's just be clear about that. That would still, he's still being blackballed from the NFL right now. I think it would be awesome. Just remind everybody, Jim Harbaugh was his coach for the 49ers. I think it would be really cool.
For what?
For him to play flag football in 2028.
Oh, yeah.
I think in terms of the job offer, everything that he said is that he still wants to be playing football and to be given a shot to play football and feels like he can help an NFL team. That isn't happening and doesn't seem like it is going to happen. I don't know. I know he's still training and doing all the things. I think if he wants to coach, I'm sure he'd be a great coach, and I'm sure he'd be able to...
Forget coaching. I just want to go back to flag football.
Okay, we're going back to
what
flag
are we
football?
talking about coaching? That'll be there for him whenever he wants.
Okay.
Yeah, but flag football, he probably has to start training now. 4 years is a long time, but there was actually the quarterback of the flag football team. He's won multiple world championships. He even led them against some former NFL players a couple years ago and won. Yep. He had some comments, which I kind of understood. He was like, yo, you're not just going to come in here. Sidebar, these were not specific to Colin at all. It was actually specific to a commercial run by the NFL, I think flag football as well, starring, for lack of a better, Jalen Hurts, where he like lights a ball on fire, throws it into like a torch, and then he's essentially saying, it's our turn now. Because American football's never been in the Olympics in this way. He's like, it's a different game. This has been my game. I've been growing it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'd love to see Colin. I'd love to see NFL players
compete.
Yeah, get in there and earn a spot. They're going to have to earn it regardless. Yeah. But I could see how it's different.
Oh, yeah.
I could see how like being
same way 3x3 is different than normal basketball.
Yeah, very true. But I feel like in NFL, you have to have such like mass to you because of the hits you're taking. Ugh. I mean, the pads help, but woof. But I could see in flag football how mass would not be helpful.
Yeah.
You'd be slower. Not from like A to B, but maybe laterally, like whatever the case is.
Well, there's been other guys too. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Joe Burrow, I think they've all come out. Which I'm
Caleb Williams,
I'm like, yeah, if you toss it up to Justin Jefferson, like, yeah, he's going to catch it over anybody. There's also
but then when you read this article, like what you would call a trick play in the NFL, we run every play.
It's going to be like Idaho. Remember Idaho football all those years ago when they
on the blue field?
The blue field, but they ran the Statue of Liberty play in the championship game.
No, Boise State has a blue field.
Boise State, that's what I meant. Idaho.
I could have said anything you would have agreed.
No, Boise State. They're in Idaho. Anyways, it's going to be a bunch of that. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, who just had there was the back shovel pass.
Dope.
That was pretty cool.
Oh man, I've been waiting for that. By the way,
I know.
Every time he would do something, I'm waiting for the around the back pass.
So, anyways, I would
Travis
love to
put his voice on blast. Did you see that?
Yeah. Well, he's got a Kermit Frog voice. I would love to see, back to Colin, I would love to see Colin be able to represent America in an Olympics. I think that would be an unbelievably special moment.
Colin Kaepernick getting a gold medal.
He's my flag
really
bearer.
Medal.
So I think that that would be really incredible to have that representation of America also be front and center at an Olympics. That would be really cool.
Well, the Olympics, as we're talking about, that's LA 2028, but we're still fresh off another one. And now we're on to the return of the NWSL season.
Right back to it. Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, the NWSL, obviously the players who were participating in the Olympics for the U.S. and for other countries were gone. A lot of the NWSL continued to play. There was...
Yeah, I'm really curious your thoughts on this. So just to give... Okay, I'm going to give the layman version of like how I see it.
Okay.
So the NWSL takes a break from regular season games. So there is no more regular season games. Your record is not impacted.
Right.
Okay? Therefore, your pay is not impacted, which is really where I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
But anyways, the teams, Olympians go, and the players remaining, they then play in make-em-ups. What did Dee call the She Believes Cup? A lot of those.
I forget.
Oh my God.
We're going to have to get that.
Let me Google that, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, they just play in like cups against teams from Mexico or England. I know the Spirit just played Arsenal the other day. So it's like, what is going on? How do you feel about this? How do players feel about this? What are we doing here?
Well...
Games that don't matter, folks.
Okay, so there's two things happening. I think there's
But soccer loves games that don't.
Oh, we love it friendly. I think there's two things happening. There's sort of like growth of the game.
Okay.
And money-making opportunities and all of that, like to grow the game, particularly on the women's side. But this is happening on the men's side as well. There's a million different cups, tournaments, whatever. And then there's just like the players who are the ones that have to participate in all of these games. So during the summer, there was a tournament basically between Liga MX, the women's league in, or Feminine MX, or whatever it's called, in Mexico with the NWSL teams. And it was, there was like no cash prize. So the players weren't getting paid anymore to play more. So that's like a labor issue right there. I would say I would be very upset. I think it was taken, the Challenge Cup, which did have cash prize, was taken out sort of in favor of this. I think these games were only streamed. They weren't even playing in their normal stadium. So from what I hear, the players were not that happy about it. And I think just in general, worldwide, on the men's and the women's side, the calendar congestion is insane.
Yeah.
Like if you're a top player on a top team and you play for your national team, which if you're a top player on your club team, you're going to be on the national team. You are playing all year, every year, and you might get, a month off, sort of scattered throughout the year. You're constantly playing. You're constantly traveling. This, I think, is even worse on the women's side because of the difference in, just general budgets and investment. So, is every play, if a Brazil comes and plays in the US and their players are going back to Europe to play in the EPL, they're flying private back, whereas those players, hopefully they're flying in business class, but we don't know. So it makes it much more difficult. There's been a huge increase in injuries as the match calendar has grown exponentially over each year. So I understand the need for growth of the game and tournaments, and it's great and it's, exciting to have our...
To what end?
To what end? It's great to have, the Spirit play Arsenal, and that's a fun thing for everyone. It's good for Arsenal, obviously, because they're in their preseason. But at some point, you can only play so many games, and
I have another question.
It's really difficult, and it feels a little...
I have another question.
Greedy.
Is it difficult when the Olympians leave? So let's use this Washington Spirit game. How many Olympians were on that team? Trinity Rodman. Who else is on the Spirit?
Yeah, they have a number of players coming back. Casey Kruger, Trin Rodman, Croy Bethune, and Hal Hirschfeld are all coming back from the U.S., are a number of other players from different countries. So they got a lot of people coming back.
In soccer, how difficult is it to incorporate players back in? Because I saw that they weren't set to play that game. I don't think they did. And yet you would think, okay, let me get these players back in. Let's get the chemistry going. Is that an issue? Is chemistry an issue when a players have been gone for a couple months or a month?
I mean, I never felt like that. I always feel like getting good players back is better. I think sometimes it's hard for people because now they're not playing.
No, I mean the incorporation of the player. They're going to play. They're obviously starters. So
Just
they're back
into
in the
vibe
starting
of
lineup.
the team?
Yeah, is it hard to go from the national team system to another system and back and forth? Like in basketball, there can be challenges with that.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit, for sure. Especially if you're playing, a different role, or if your role is bigger in one place or another, or, if you haven't been playing a lot, you haven't been getting a lot of matches. Some of the players went to the Olympics and didn't play at all, or were alternate. So I think there's a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always feel like if you're a good player, you're a good player, you can figure it out. And coming back, getting all the players back, it was always good because you just have, your full squad, you have more talent, your bench immediately becomes deeper. So it's tough, but I think the harder part is coming off the toll of a tournament like the Olympics for
those that played a lot
for the players that played a lot of minutes and for the teams that made it far. So that's, going to be the German players, the Spanish players, the Brazilian players, and the U.S. players. They all made it to the very end. They all played in, either the gold medal match or the bronze medal match. And that just physically is so difficult. So they need a little bit of time. I saw a number of vacation pics, so I was happy the girlies were celebrating their gold medals and getting a little bit of rest.
Anything else about the return of the NWSL you're
oh my
looking
gosh,
for?
I have so much.
Oh, okay.
I'm really excited to see Barbra Banda come back to NWSL. Barbra Banda. Barbra and Temwe Chawinga are tied for 12 goals each. Joint top scorers. Soph Smith's at 10 goals. Orlando, I think surprising to everyone, is at the top of the table. They have historically been at the bottom table in a place where you were threatened jokingly that if you didn't behave, you're going to be traded to. And now they're at the top of the table.
They used to be Tulsa for us.
Yeah, exactly. Marta just got engaged. That's amazing to
Congrats
see Marta,
to Marta.
even just go out with a silver medal. Hat tip there. She's obviously the GOAT. I've said that so many times. She's amazing. Kansas City right behind Orlando in the standings. So I can't wait to see that. I think Tobin and Press talked about on their podcast. Are we seeing the Banda Dior tour? Is this the year that Barbra Banda wins a Ballon d'Or? I mean, she's never, or maybe not never, but she's not winning international titles right now with her team. That's not going to happen. But she is basically scoring every goal that they ever score. And she's been on a terror internationally, which is so difficult to do. Like even 2021 Olympics, she had back-to-back hat tricks in the games. Like she's absolutely tearing it up, even if, she's by far the best player on her team.
I think the question is, at what point does the NWSL play get weighed in the Ballon d'Or voting? Because I don't think historically it's been weighed.
It is not.
Yeah.
The only time we ever win is if we win a World Cup
when you
or an
ball out on the
Olympics.
national team. Yeah.
Yeah, when you ball on the national team. So I agree.
More, what do you guys call them? Imports? The more players, the more international players come into the NWSL. I imagine that's going to have to start just having some weight to it. It's never had weight. It needs to start.
I agree. It's tough. The teams obviously, particularly in England, are so good, and they have Champions League, and they play, a longer schedule, this and that. But we'll see. I think that the league is on par with any league in the world. So we'll see. Portland is always right there too. They always have a great squad, and they have Smith. So that is just always dangerous.
Well, what else in the NWSL before we move on to the intersection?
The only other thing that I want to talk about, there is going to be a new NWSL CBA that has been signed. The details are very sparse.
Have you not had one before?
No, we have.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's being redun.
Okay.
Obviously, the new media deal.
Wait, is national team CBA the same as NWSL?
Nope, totally different.
Okay.
So there's a US WNTPA, and then there's an NWSLPA. We'll wait and see. I'm really excited to hear about it. I would imagine it's going to incorporate that new media deal, and I would imagine there's going to be a lot more player movement and freedom of movement, free agency. So keep yourself tuned. And I'm going to keep myself tuned because
I'm tuned.
I know no details, and I need to know them, and I want to know them.
Because you're going to have to talk about it on this show.
Because I'm going to have to talk about it, and I also am
Do you guys have a trade deadline? I feel like it's wild west.
Yeah, there's
in
like
the
transfer
NWSL.
windows and stuff. Yeah, it is
transfer.
Wild. There's like
trade.
There are trades, but then there's there are deadlines. I don't know what they are. And then there's transfer deadlines also.
You're like, I was never going to be traded, therefore I don't know anything about this.
Facts. That's what it was. I was like, I'm not have to worry about this. Okay.
We're hitting the intersection now.
As usual, there's so many sports headlines to cover. We could go on and on and on. But there's also major story happening in culture this week, and we want to get there. It's happening in Chicago as we speak, the Democratic National Convention.
We've got the Clintons, Biden, the Obamas all scheduled to speak. First in-person DNC since the pandemic. Yeah.
Exciting.
How do you expect this DNC to feel the momentum that Kamala's feeling right now?
I am really excited to see much more of the policy platform expressed. I think it's been a lot of excitement, momentum, sort of like these viral moments. Kamala's brat. Tim Walz is just literally so funny. Dads are funny. Dads are funny for a reason, and he's nailing it.
Does he have monarchs? We should probably send him some monarchs.
Oh, we got to get him some monarchs.
Yeah.
He would love a monarch.
Yeah, we got to hook him.
So I think it's been a lot of that. And I think people are now like, okay. And what's the platform? What's the policy? I think, particularly in the Democratic Party, we have a number of different wings. So there's sort of a more conservative that's kind of in the middle. And then we have, a further left wing that is really exciting, I think. So I'm ready to hear more of that. I'm ready to hear sort of the overall vision. I mean, I think it'll be similar. I feel like Kamala's politics and President Biden's are Vice President Kamala Harris. I don't need to speak of her like she's my auntie, but I would like her to be. I think they're pretty similar, but it'll be interesting sort of where she differs and different roads she takes. And I think in general, it's like when the people are behind it and the people are excited, that's the magic.
So I actually wouldn't mind more, and some of these have to happen organically, so I know you can't maybe go in planning it. Example would be the brat tweet. I wouldn't mind more one-liner, quick hitter, viral statements, slogans, things that happen. I think that's great. I think that actually continues to fuel, especially the younger generations.
I agree.
So if they happen, but to your point, while also touching on, okay, like what is this? Like what is the platform? What are we talking about? I would love to see all kinds of conversations around reproductive rights. I think that's really where this election lives in a lot of ways. I would also just add that for me personally, this is less about what I want to see at the DNC, or it could be. To me, this election comes down to trust. It's really that simple. And I don't think Donald Trump and that side has done anything for anyone to truly trust it.
You don't think they can be trusted?
No, I don't. And that's my starting point.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you could pose this question and somebody could be like, oh, and start rattling off the reasons why you shouldn't trust, Kamala Harris, why you shouldn't, like whatever it is. But the starting point for me is not there. The starting point is, what has the Trump side of things done for me to believe or trust anything? And it's not that politicians on either side get it right all the time. They make mistakes. They're human. It's like, but do you trust that their, for lack of a better, heart is in the right place, that they're trying to do things for good, that they're trying to bring the country together? Yeah, I trust the Democrats that they're trying to do that. And no, they're not going to be perfect. And yes, you can hold them accountable at times. But that's what, to me, needs to be the chord that needs to be struck.
I
is that
agree.
like you can, we're not going to get it perfect. Again, and honestly, that's what a relationship is, which is really like, not that you're going to a relationship with your president, but you kind of are.
kind of
and it's
are,
like, listen, I'm going to trust you're going to try to get it right. And I'm also going to know you're not going to get it perfect, but I'm going to trust that even when you don't get it perfect, you're going to try to get it back online.
I think that's what is really resonating about this vice presidential pick in Tim Walz is that, with trust comes truth. And he's going to tell the truth. Like, he's just going to call it out. And he can do it in a way that I think Vice President Harris right now, can't do. We kind of said he's going to be able to say things, whether it's to Trump or to J.D. Vance, that as a Black woman in this country, like, she'll just get killed for.
Right.
And so he can kind of shield her a little bit. But I also think that he is plain spoken. And I think he says it like it is, and I think he's telling the truth, and I think his sort of like proof is in the pudding. Okay, back to the DNC. Another really cool thing that's happening, perfect for this intersection, is Designers for Democracy. So there's 16 of America's...
We love a fashion nod.
I love a fashion moment.
You love a fashion moment.
16 of America's top designers team up in support of the Kamala Harris presidential campaign. Let's look at this collection. Sue, what are your favorites and which ones do you absolutely want?
I thought Aurora James, she had a t-shirt,
Love you in
some
general.
socks. On it said, America is an idea. And she had this one quote where it was like, I wrote it down. It's kind of shorthand, but an inclusive country is a stronger country. America should belong to us equally. And I just think, I don't know, I liked the t-shirt, but I liked her message more. The socks were pretty dope too. And I think Rachel Scott's long sleeve, it was like a black on black and it said reproductive rights now, but in like a black on black vibe. I'm like, that I love the message, but I'm like, I'd wear that.
I love that.
Yeah, what about you?
I do love the America is an idea. That's just encompasses it all and is something that we should always be trying to live into. My favorites, the Gabriella Hearst pink and blue.
Yeah.
I think it's a nod.
The hat was cool.
I think it's a trans nod, which is really cool. The hat is going to pair perfectly with my black denim white stitch flame shorts. Like, it's a streetwear moment. It's great. Anybody who's seen me recently undoubtedly will have seen me in Willie Chavaria. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Or Willie, it's just Chavaria, Willie Chavaria. I'm not really sure. It's so Cali. It's so cool. I loved his part of it. So I definitely want that one. And then the Victor Gelmod, the rib tank. I mean, rib tanks are the hottest item in fashion right now, and have been for a minute. So I think those three things are
your faves.
Gonna be awesome.
Yeah. And I'm
super pumped about those.
This isn't the first time we've seen this. For Biden, the Believe in Better campaign in 2020, the fashion industry got involved as well. So it's kind of cool. I mean, if there's one thing I learned in the WNBA, a t-shirt can speak.
Oof.
And it can speak volumes and it can go a long way because when you wear these things in specific moments, like for us, it's, walking into a game, the tunnel fit, if you will. That picture's going to go everywhere. That video is going to go everywhere. So if you have a message, you can use fashion. So I think it's amazing to see that. And, speaking, do you have something else you want to add?
Well, I always say this, and I feel like it's like a deep belief of mine, is that everybody has the responsibility to do something to make the world a better place in some sort of way, whatever way you can be most impactful. And I love this because I love fashion. And so these designers who are unbelievably talented in their own right are using like the thing that they're most skilled at to do this. Other people are going to do other things for the election, and I would encourage everybody to, whatever it is, use that. But I always think it's really cool when people find a way to use like their talent and passion to make the world better in whatever way that they can. So this is a cool link up, and also I think just a sort of nod to like how much the campaign is like plugged into the culture and the people, and I think that is really important.
Well, speaking of fashion, culture, I don't know if we'll say people, but maybe. But definitely somebody who's making the world a better place. Ellie the Elephant, the New York Liberty mascot.
My name is Big Ellie.
Popped out at I believe it's a Missy Elliott concert, but Sierra's set and danced with Sierra, danced with their dancers, absolutely killed it. The crowd went nuts.
It was at Barclays.
When she came on. Yeah, the crowd went nuts.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, for me, says so much, speaks volumes to where the WNBA is. But
Huge.
You get to see Ellie. We have courtside seats to the Liberty.
Oh, yeah.
You get to see Ellie all the time. What do you think?
Well, Ellie's my favorite part, besides the players, obviously. Watching the women do their thing is amazing. And if Ruby's there, obviously, then Ruby's the favorite part. But no, Ellie is totally unmatched. Her vibe is like so perfect for Barclays. It's so perfect for Brooklyn. It's added this other element to the games that are just like so cool and so much fun and like so unique to what Brooklyn has going on there. So shout out to the in-game entertainment crew at the Liberty Games. They're amazing. And to like see Ellie have this like crossover, cross-cultural moment, I think does speak volumes about the WNBA. Like everybody knows Ellie, and therefore everybody knows the New York Liberty, and everybody knows the WNBA.
Yeah, it's like branding.
And
at
they
this
have
point.
huge stars. Obviously, Sabrina plays here, and Stewie plays here, and Jonquel Jones plays here, and so many others. And it's like, it's so great. The Liberty are playing at home for the first time since the Olympic break tomorrow, which will be August 21st.
Yeah.
That is, I might have to bring earplugs. I'm sensitive to sound.
For some reason, I thought you were going to be like elephant ears.
I'm going to have to bring my elephant ears, obviously.
Yeah, no, Ellie is definitely an attraction. And we're starting to see like more people show up at all kinds of games, more celebrities.
You saw the Sparks game.
I saw the Sparks game. Sanaa Lathan, Gina Prince Bythewood, the writer and director of Love and Basketball, were at the Sparks game. That means Monica Wright McCall was back where she belongs at a Sparks
USC
game.
legend.
Sitting courtside.
Wow.
Hold the ball.
It's the best movie. It's just the best movie.
This is the type of movie where every single athlete.
Did I nail it?
Yeah, nailed it. Yeah. This is the type of movie where every athlete, especially a basketball player, knows where they were when they watched it. I know exactly where I was, who I was with, like what movie theater, what town. I know everything about that moment. And then, of course, we all got the soundtrack. So if you want to do this woman's work again, by all means. No, that was amazing to see her there.
Cool.
Like I said, it's just so meaningful. I'm sure every player I saw a couple, every player got pictures with her after.
Iconic.
She probably doesn't even realize. So I take that back. I'm sure she gets told often when people see her, but she might not even realize just how important her coming back to a Sparks game is.
Yeah, very
it's pretty,
cool.
Yeah.
It was
epic.
pretty mindful of her.
Yeah.
Pretty demure.
I just absolutely loved it.
Is that how I use it?
Yeah, sure. Cutesy.
Is it pretty cutesy of her? Pretty demure?
Megan does not understand.
I don't get it.
The demure thing.
I like
and
kind
that's
of
the
do.
point. The point is like
I've
demure.
read multiple articles.
It can be whatever
on
you
this.
want. And like the more people add to it, change it, make it their own, it just becomes more demure.
Am I demure?
You have moments.
Am I mindful?
Sometimes.
Are
No,
you?
you're mindful. I don't know. If I want to be.
I'm
I
so
think that's
into
the
it
point.
though. It's honestly, it's so funny.
I think that's the point.
It's
you can
so
kind of make
great.
it what it is. Yeah, I love seeing people use
Super
it
into
in their
it.
taglines and
Oh
like in
my
their
gosh.
captions, I should say.
It's just, it's so great. I just love that.
Yeah, we're you actually, I'm like on the border. I'm kind of Gen X millennial. I'm like right on the line. 1980 is literally, I'm kind of like doing both.
Yeah.
You're straight up millennial, and I even got it before you did.
You get everything. I'm the
No, I
last
don't.
to know.
No.
I don't know where all this stuff lives, and
But you know that ribbed tank tops are hot, so we all have our strengths.
I sure do.
Actually, I love a good segue. Because we're going back into a little bit of fashion. We obviously touched on the Olympics a lot. And now that most Olympians are home, there's been some flexing on the gram.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't seen, Brazilian gold medalist Rebecca Andrade, I thought the most hilarious one was Tyrese Halliburton having a private photo shoot in his uniform with his medal and his dog.
Okay. I did see that. That was post.
That was, obviously he has the medal.
Okay.
And his dog wasn't
yeah.
in Paris.
True. He really went after it.
Yeah.
I love it. You know
Very-
what
very
also was
demure.
a big flex? Was Ka going back to Chicago in her own jersey.
Yeah, that
I
was
loved
nuts.
that.
That was nuts.
That was like, damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
And then lit them up.
And lit them up.
Lit them up.
Oh my God. I was like, damn.
Kids today, man,
That-
the confidence is crazy. And I love it.
I loved that.
You have your women's national team picture on the
hard pick.
steps. That was
Honestly-
kind of right after, but
I know so many of those players so well. I was inside their head knowing the exact mindset and how
So-
bad each one of those players was hurting.
so tell us about Rose.
Hurting.
Hurting?
Because honestly, she's not a big partier.
She's not.
She's just a tiny human.
She's tiny.
And she's an animal. When she gets after it, she's an animal.
What about Lynn breaking her medal? I mean, that was my favorite
So
picture
funny.
because her just holding up the medal.
This
There's no
piece
like
so
neck
crazy.
strap. That was epic.
Just honestly, she could have killed someone. She
Literally.
could have killed someone.
Yeah.
She was flinging that thing around.
Like
Those
a
things
helicopter.
they just keep getting bigger and heavier and bigger and heavier. Like they are actually so heavy and so huge. These
My
ones,
one from Athens?
Yeah, it's
I'm
like-
oh, it's so
it's like a silver dollar.
It's demure. It's so cutesy.
It's so cutesy.
It's like a little baby.
So those were great.
Ilona Mar, she took a picture with her rose gold medal, aka bronze.
I know all about that. You don't even know about that, Sue.
And a glass of rosé. And
love
she's
that.
like, thanks, Paris. Been real.
Came, saw, conquered.
Love that.
I'm out.
And then you have Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone poses in front of her own world record. I love those pictures.
I love those pictures.
I love those pictures.
The track
She broke
is
the 400-meter
totally-
hurdle record at 50.37 seconds. Nuts. You couldn't see anybody. We talked about that.
You know what's been
last
cool
week.
too? All these players coming back to the W and their teammates celebrating them. So we saw
Phoenix Mercury.
Phoenix Mercury had Dee obviously winning her historic 6th gold medal. The Aces did something for their players coming back. They like decorated their lockers and did all that. So it was cool to see everyone like coming back and getting love, and obviously getting love in the stadium and all the arenas that they're playing in. So
You had BG actually
cool.
have her medal in her tunnel fit.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. I was wondering if that was going to happen. I
here
didn't
for
think it was. And then BG pulled up. She's like, yerp,
Yeah,
I won this shit.
I did this.
Yeah.
I
so
did
good
this.
for her. And then last but not
Incredible.
least, this is not Olympic related, but Asia Wilson in her game last night just pulled up in like a fresh white tee. Like literally you could tell straight out the box. It had all the creases. And I'm only bringing it up because, you know, the song White Tee? Oh, in my white tee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Them Franchise Boys. They posted her.
Oh, I love that.
And I was like, get it. Like that is what dreams are made of right there.
Love it. Love it.
Do you have what's your thoughts on the flexing? We've got all these players flexing now, all these Olympians. You like it?
I do like it, but I love a flex. You know me.
I know.
I am well into the
It
flex.
wasn't like a real question.
I'm well into the flex culture. Oh, it was a rhetorical question. Did I miss that? I'm into it, but you better nail it, because sometimes a flex gone wrong, tough.
Are you thinking of something in particular? Or should we just move on?
Not really, but you better nail it. But I love a flex. I think this
do too.
moment too.
If there's any time to flex, it's after winning a medal.
It's right after winning. Like, do whatever you want.
No
really
one can say
live
shit
it up.
to you.
Like,
That's my favorite part about it.
You can't go back and celebrate. I always felt this way in my career, especially after, either winning a medal or winning a championship. Like, take this moment and celebrate to its max. This is such a special moment and like an unbelievably hard moment to get to. And you spent all this time getting to it. Like, take the week or two to do whatever you want, say whatever you want, and like really just like live into that joy. It's very special.
I agree. And then the only thing I would add to that is in that week, it is so impossible to recreate the night it happens.
No.
You're just constantly, you're on this path of like
chasing the after party.
You are chasing the after party. And it's just nothing's like that night. There's nothing ever like that first night.
No.
But yeah, I have no problem with the flexing.
Love it.
All right, so that's it for the intersection today. We're going to get right into Are You a Megan or Are You a Sue? We've been traveling a lot. We travel very differently, something we've spoken about publicly, but we also
differently.
Pack differently. Would you like me to start or would you like to start?
You can start.
I can start. Okay, when I pack for a particularly long trip, let's be honest, when I pack for an overnighter, doesn't matter, I make a list.
The binder comes out.
That's not true.
The notebook comes out.
My laptop comes out.
The laptop
I've started typing
or the
it.
iPad comes out.
Yeah, writing it's too much. I've got
days
my
in
list going.
5 days in advance.
Okay, are you going to let me tell it or do you want to just tell it?
I'm coloring it.
So I have my list and I've got, what am I going to need? What outfits am I going to need? Am I working out? Do I have time to shop? Am I going to dinners? Is this just work? Do I have some time to hang out with friends? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? And I map it all out and I list it all out. Yeah. And then once I've like figured out what I want to wear, I put it in the bag. And I'm literally to the day set up. I leave some, maybe like 2% of wiggle room if I want to change something up. Or maybe if I shopped and got something on the road. But it's very small wiggle room. Very. It's usually just like, because when I go, and this is the whole thing, when I get to where I'm going, and Paris, this trip is a great example, because it was work, it was play, it was everything. I don't want to have to think when I'm there. And that is how I pack.
And I do think about.
Remember when you asked me, are you mindful? But you know what? I'm going to let you go. I'm not going to interrupt.
I never, ever, ever did a list before I met Sue. And then I saw the way she was doing lists and I was like, that's pretty useful. That's going to make things a lot easier. Because I would just forget things all the time. I still forget things all the time, constantly. It's so annoying. Honestly, it's so annoying being me sometimes. But I understand, like, okay, I'm going for 5 days and we have like a couple dinners or like this is what the work or these are the workout, whatever. But then see, you'll like do an outfit. You'll like try an outfit on, be like, this is dinner on Thursday. And then this is like my comfies on Friday morning. And then like
this is what I'm traveling in.
So I'm traveling. I can't do that. I can't leave any of my babies behind that I'm really into at that moment. So like what ends up happening, I don't mean to do it. What ends up happening is I just pack all my favorite things kind of like at the time, sort of loosely in this like, this could go with this. But then I get to the destination.
You're going to figure it out when you get there is really what you're saying.
Yeah, then I get to the destination. Nothing goes with anything else. Nothing's planned. Nothing goes with anything else. It's always a big drama.
I'm always for Dover Street Market.
Thank God. You guys, Dover Street Market in Paris was just unbelievable. Sandra, shout out, girl.
You had to buy a whole other
everything,
suitcase.
And I regret none of it. And I had to get another suitcase from Ramoa, thank you, or Ramova, however you say it. And it always happens and it always drives me nuts. And I get there and I'm like, what am I going to wear? Nothing's going with anything. I packed too many of this and not enough of this. And then it's just like chaos.
It stresses me out.
It's chaos. And then like eventually, obviously, because I packed.
And you're like, are you going to wear that shirt? I'm like, yeah, on Thursday at 8 p.m.
Literally.
I cannot sacrifice
I can't get into your bag at all until you've worn it. And then it's
I know, then we can flip-flop.
Yeah. But I mean, my bag is never under 68 pounds. So
do you roll?
I have stuff.
But you roll, right? Like when you fold, you roll. Are you a roller?
I'm not a huge roller.
You're not a roller?
I don't like all my clothes rolled up like that.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It creates space. All right, so here it is. Are you a Megan or are you Sue? Do you throw things in a bag folded, but thrown and then not planned out and figure it out when you get there?
I have to fold because I have 68 pounds of stuff.
Do you list it out, give it a roll, and pack?
I mean, I always look good, but It's chaos.
Nobody said that.
Thank you. That's it for Are You Megan
Oh,
or
wait.
Sue?
Did you know it's called a ranger roll? I just saw that in our little notes here.
Oh.
I ranger roll the shit out of my clothes.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
That
Except my
thing
underwear.
is-
Whereas you fold your underwear.
Well, because I wear boxer briefs.
I know, but even before that,
yeah, I would fold them up.
you would fold
Yeah.
it. I'm like,
I know, your underwears are crazy.
who cares if they're wrinkled?
So, you guys, let us know. Are you a Megan or are you a Sue? Dial in 1-833 a touch 8 is the number. Let us know if you're on my side or if you're on Sue's side. In this
We're
week's
calling it sides? That's weird. It's just different ways of operating. Are you competing?
Isn't one better?
Are you competing?
Aren't we in a competition?
I just know.
For who's awesomer in the packing? Let us know, y'all.
All right. So before we go, we're going to leave you all with a touch more. This time around, we're going to talk about some of the issues that I feel like is really specific to women athletes. A good way to start it is after Simone Biles won her medals, first thing a reporter asks, so what are you going to do next? Like, what's up? What do you got going on? And it's something that we all encounter. You know, you mentioned it, referenced it earlier about turning 30. The minute I turned 30, I was asked, well, what are you going to do next?
Relentlessly.
When are you going to retire?
Yeah.
What do you think that is? Why do you think that happens?
Well, I think for women, this is what happens. Two things are happening. You're not really making that much money anyway. So, like, how long are we going to continue on this charade?
What's your next job going to be?
What's your next job going to be?
That's
You're
what they're
getting
asking.
kind of old to start your new job.
Mm-hmm.
And
Have
like,
you planned for it?
You've done this for a little bit. So, like, what are you going to do next?
It's definitely about the money. That's my take on it.
100%.
Yeah.
It's like this, even though people know now that athletes,
Clearly,
particularly Simone Biles.
Yeah. I don't know if hers was it had a little bit of that in it, right? Like this might be your last Olympics. You might retire. So what are you going to do next? So for her, it was more around like, why are you asking now? Why are you asking now?
Yeah. And then I think that reporters honestly lack a little bit of imagination in these moments. And it's just like this thing
They can't tap in.
that they can ask right away instead of being like, I don't know, asking Simone what this meant to her to be able to have a moment like this coming off a moment like Tokyo. And like, how proud are you of yourself, of the work you put in?
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, and emotionally to be in this moment instead of, oh, what are you going to do next? It's honestly like so annoying because I feel like the only player maybe now that we're seeing on the men's side maybe is LeBron because of his age. But it's more
Nobody's
like
asking what he's gonna do
nobody's asking what
next.
he's doing next. They're asking like, how much longer will you allow us to be basking in your greatness because you signed a 2-year deal worth $100 million? Everybody's like, of course he's going to be playing longer because he's made. But it's also like, just because we're not making $50 million a year doesn't mean you're not making any money a year. Like, female athletes are making an unbelievable amount of money now, and particularly someone like Simone Biles. And so
I've always said
riles me up.
Everybody's poor compared to LeBron.
Yeah.
And yet female athletes are looked at as like
we have to immediately go get another job.
Yeah, we have no, for lack of a better, bank at all.
Yeah.
But everybody's poor compared to LeBron. But we always get compared to like the tippy top of male athletes. So I do think two things were happening. With Simone, it was more of just like, well, what are you going to do next? To your point, I think it's just the lack of imagination. But then there is this other part where people have not understood the amount of money that we have been making. Like when I was 30 years old and getting asked about retirement, what am I going to do next? Essentially, what job are you going to take? I was already like a millionaire. I already had multiple homes. It wasn't, but nobody talked about it. So they are talking about it now. So maybe that'll start changing.
I hope so, because it's also a really frustrating question. Jordan Childs releases a very powerful statement after her bronze medal is stripped away. Sue, give me your thoughts.
I just thought she showed a lot of like humanity. I thought she did it with class. It was very impressive, but you also felt the emotion of what was happening. And that can be a tough line to walk at times, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's some anger, there's some hurt.
Yeah.
But I thought she just was real.
Yeah.
And I think people are drawn to authenticity.
Super
impressive. And so that to me felt authentic because she was like, this is going to be hard. Having to give this back or it's less about the medal.
Yeah.
It's more about the record books of it all.
Yeah.
And knowing your name's not going to be there where it belongs because she did do the thing, as we talked about last week.
Yeah.
I just thought she showed a lot of humanity. So I was really impressed with that. It can be vulnerable in those ways. So I was really impressed with her.
No one's ever taking away that photo.
No.
And that'll
last forever.
So iconic and such a beautiful moment for so many reasons. And so thank you, Jordan Charles, for giving us that moment. And you're forever a medalist in our hearts.
There was also multiple stories where athletes shared what was going on in their bodies in terms of reproductive organs. So we had Brittany Brown talk about her life with endometriosis. We had Tara Davis Woodall, who qualified on the first day of her period, discuss that. How you've actually done a recent campaign.
Yeah, with Nyx.
Do you want to talk about that? Yeah, your campaign with Nyx. But just what's your thoughts on seeing athletes share these stories? Because it is a huge part of a woman's life. It is a huge part of our athletic lives. I mean, everything from how we're feeling on that day to then like, okay, do I change my tampon at halftime? Like, I got to keep track of that. Oh, we're wearing white today. That can be a grind for a lot of people. So, thoughts?
Well, I mean, not that this is Olympic level, but I did wake up with a backache because my period is coming. And so to be able to, I think just competing for Brittany Brown with endometriosis is like insane. It's so painful, like literally keeled over, like crippling pain at times. So be able to fight through that is incredible, but like maybe we don't have to fight through stuff so much. Maybe we can start to diagnose that earlier. We can have more research around that. Like we can have better tools for athletes who have periods to get through it a little bit easier. I think it's just honestly incredible. Like we know what it's like to have a period and sometimes it just wipes you out. And I think it's really cool to have athletes at that level in the biggest moment of, their sporting career just talk about it and be open about it. We know the statistics around girls dropping out in sports. There's like a massive cliff that happens with young girls dropping out in sports when they get their period. It's something that's maybe still embarrassing, even though it's like literally the most natural thing in the world. So I love that people are talking about it. I love that these women were talking about it and just sharing and breaking some of the stigma. And there's no need to be embarrassed about anything that has to do with the period.
For me, I always say this. Athletes, the reason why they should be the ones speaking on a lot of these different issues that affect them, male, female, doesn't matter, is because we do have microphones in front of our face. We do get asked questions. And I think we are real, right? Like we're ourselves out there. We're not actors. We're ourselves out there. And the reason why this is so important is because you're now going to have more people do it. And to your point, it's going to normalize it. So maybe a young girl can learn about it. But also I think the studies and the sciences aspect of things, like how we look at an athlete's body, how we look at a female's body, and like everything has been nutrition, the way we work out, historically has been based on a male body. They've been the ones monitored, tested, whatever it is. And I think we need to start incorporating like what it is for a woman. And, we do get our periods. This is what it is. And how does that impact things? I know the woman, Susan, I know the person we worked with, she started doing that and started kind of tailoring our workouts based around our cycle. And I think the more that's talked about, you're just going to see in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to become a main part of the conversation and it's going to change so much.
Yeah. Dawn Scott, who we worked with the U.S. Women's National Team, she now works with the Washington Spirit, has been doing research on this for years and years and years. She has a ton of data. She's done a ton of work with soccer players. So hopefully that's starting to trickle its way into mainstream. And also, you know what, men and boys, you can learn a lot about periods too and be a part of kind of breaking that stigma and that there. Coco Gauff was upset in the WTA Cincinnati Open. We mentioned that just because we love Coco to see her lose, but also the U.S. Open is coming to New York.
Yeah. So for Coco,
defending her title there.
Yeah. Defending her title at the U.S. Open, loss at the Olympics. lost at the WTA. This impacted, not the Olympics, but this impacted her seeding at the US Open. She got bopped down to a 3 seed. And this just brings up the question of what it's like when you're an athlete who has had tremendous amount of success, and then you have these setbacks. And how do you handle that balance?
Well, honestly, I feel like it's easy to bounce back because you're pissed. And you're like...
But aren't you like a little off your game? The confidence is a little off?
A little off your game, yeah. Yeah, confidence can be shook. But I think sometimes, like, well, first of all, it's just life. Like, nothing is perfect all the time. You don't win every single, game you play all of the time. So I feel like learning in those moments, learning how to lose and how to fail as early as possible, I think puts you in a position to be more successful moving forward, and especially Coco at such a young age. So I feel like while this is really disappointing, probably particularly Olympics, as that only comes around every 4 years, she also has this incredible opportunity to show back up at the US Open as defending champion, and like she's got to have a fire going on inside her.
Yeah, I think for me, what makes it hard is this is again for me, like specifically. It's you might lose a little bit of your edge. You might lose a little bit of your confidence. You might, some self-doubt can creep in. I can only imagine what it's like for a tennis player because it's an individual sport.
So
That's
hard.
the beauty of teams. You can kind of lean into the team. So my quote unquote advice would be to lean into the team. For Coco, she might not be able to do that in the same ways. But I think what always gave me like solace, gave me a peaceful place to rest all of these doubts was just the time that I put in, the work that I put in.
Yep.
And I'm big on law of averages. It's like, it's gonna come back around. Yeah. And the other thing I realized just through my career is when you're in a little bit of a down moment, that's when you're thinking. When you're playing great, you're not thinking.
Chilling.
And so you almost have to train yourself to not think. You have to kind of dupe yourself. But then, to piggyback on what you said, you have to be excited. Yeah. I think when you're in a place, when you're in a place that's down, it's hard to get excited for the games. It's hard to get excited for the moments because you're like, oh shit, what if I lose again?
You're nervous.
Yeah. So you have to almost trick yourself into that belief, into that excitement. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching her play as well, and we'll have to check that out. So that's it for the episode. Again, let us know if you're a Megan or if you're a Sue. You can leave us a voicemail. Call us at 1-833-A-TOUCH-8. That is 1-833-A-TOUCH-8. We'll see you next week.